What's the most used man-made material on Earth? I'll give you the answer. Concrete. This is the Concrete Logic Podcast. Have you ever stopped to think about the sidewalks, driveways, bridges, or the buildings around you? They're all made from concrete. So why don't we discuss it more? In each episode of Concrete Logic, we'll explore a unique concrete-related topic with the help of industry professionals shaping the trade's future. We'll talk with suppliers, contractors, architects, engineers, specialists, and even proponents of competing materials. We'll get their views on concrete and their visions for its future. So get ready to mix things up with Concrete Logic, where we turn the spotlight on the material that's everywhere but often overlooked. This is the Concrete Logic Podcast. And now, here's your host, Seth Tandett.
Welcome to another episode of the Concrete Logic Podcast. And today I have Patrick Narron. He is a talent acquisition specialist at Baker Construction. And today what we're going to talk about is a few things. And we're going to try to hit on strategic career decisions to get to an executive role in concrete construction. We're going to talk about what that career path looks like. And we're also going to hit on what soft skills you should probably pick up as you are going through your career and trying to get to that executive level. So those are the few things we're going to talk about, and probably talk a little bit more about that. But before we get into that, I just want to remind everyone, especially if you're new to the podcast, there's a few ways you can support the podcast. The first is if you enjoy the episode or any of the, I don't know, we're over 100 some odd episodes now. Please share it with a coworker or colleague in the industry. That helps out immensely. The second way is if you go to concretelogicpodcast.com. There are a couple ways you can contact me. There's a contact link up near the top of the page. And there's, when you click on that, that's like shooting me an email. And then if you're not an email guy, you like to talk like I do, you can click on, there's a little microphone thing at the bottom right-hand corner of the homepage, and you can click on that, and that's like leaving me a voicemail. And what I'm looking for is for you all to give me topic or guest suggestions. Patrick is someone that reached out to me and suggested to get Patrick on the show. So that's it. I'm being honest with you, it works. So you got to try it. Most of our guests are referrals, so I do appreciate people reaching out and doing that. Another way you can do to support the podcast is there's a donate button on that homepage as well, and you can click on there and you can send some dollars my way, and that helps pay for equipment or other things that cost money to put out a podcast. It's believe it or not, it's not free to put one out. And if you're like, man, I don't want to send you money. I don't want a donation. When I spend my hard-earned money, I want to get something out of it. Well, if that's you, you can go to concretelogicacademy.com, and we actually have created courses based around the podcast episodes. So you can join that, and there's some quizzes in there you can take, and there's even a course in there that you can take, and we'll send you a certificate, and you can earn professional development hours as well. So if that's your route, please visit that website as well. That's concretelogicacademy.com. All right, that was a lot for me. Well, let's let Patrick talk for a while. So, Patrick, if you want to talk about what is a talent acquisition specialist at Baker Construction? What do you do? Talk a little bit about how you got into that, and then we'll get into those few things that I shared earlier.
Awesome. Well, Seth, it is the best job in the world being a talent acquisition specialist at Baker Construction. My job all day, every day is to talk with people about the opportunities that we have at Baker to help progress and move their career forwards, talking with people in the field, from field engineers field safety reps, all the way through operations, and as we continue to grow new positions. So my job is to be in the marketplace representing Baker, offering opportunities to converse about our needs, our growth, and then individuals' careers, where they're at and their outlook over the next 10, 15, 20 years or so, wherever they're at in their career, and see if there's an alignment with what they hope to achieve and what we can provide for them and help them in their growth along that way. So I get to talk to people all day, every day. And I got into this role about 8 years ago when I started an executive search in Asheville, North Carolina, at a place called Kimmel and Associates, where they taught me, how to executive search, how to find people who were qualified, could really add value to new companies, and then make introductions that can mutually benefit both parties. Having done that 8 years, worked across the country and has strictly stuck in the cast-in-place concrete market, which eventually brought me to Baker, where our long-term goals there and the things that I was looking to align with myself over the next years to come very much aligned, and now get to speak with people like yourself, our team, and then people across the country about our growth. So if you can't tell, very passionate about it.
Yeah, that's a cool job. I mean, it's you literally change people's lives. I mean, I mean that's how I got into the industry. Someone actually Mark Mihailovich, you probably know that guy.
Yeah,
he was.
Yeah, Mark. Shout out Mark.
Shout out to Mark. Mark found me in Columbus, Ohio, and got me an opportunity with a company in Cleveland. So, know Mark for I guess this was 2025. Jesus, 24 years. I guess I've known Mark. So, yeah. So I totally get what you do day in and day out. But I think what we want to talk about today is kind of speak to the folks that are maybe younger professionals that are, just getting out of college, or maybe they've been out of college for a handful of years, and, they see those executives, those old grizzled guys, maybe have some gray hairs, maybe not. And they're like, hey, how do I get to that guy's spot? So I think we want to talk about what kind of career decisions, because you shared that you've placed some presidents, some executive level guys, so you probably have insight on what those guys have in common as far as decisions they've made in their career to get them to where they ended up.
Yeah, Seth, there's many commonalities, and, touching on what you had mentioned, probably somewhere in the range of 7 to 12, like senior level executive VPs I placed in my career, quite a few presidents. And when you're looking at people who are worthy of that sort of title, that sort of position and caliber, few commonalities that I've seen is the trajectory that they've mostly all worked upon to get there seems to be a common thread. When I ask people coming out of college now, hey, what do you look to do in this career? Owning your own company, being the C-suite, being an executive, you hear that commonly. And when I ask, well, what is the trajectory to get there? What's the game plan, the path? Because what do they say? Hope is a feeling, not a plan. Most people don't even know the structure and the timeline that it takes to actually get to a president role. I'll walk you through a common presidential resume just offhand, so our listeners can have an understanding of what that looks like. If you're coming into an industry, most often than not, maybe the term is different, but you're going to be a project engineer. Let's say if we're going up the project management route, project engineer, you are looking to sit in that position. If you're really going to grasp hold of it, quick on the front end, maybe 2.5 years, could take you up to 5 years. In the marketplace since COVID, I've seen quite a few people kind of expedite that in a year. And if that's you and you are top of the scale, hats off to you. But to really digest what it takes to all encompass being a top level project engineer, it's going to take time to learn a company's culture, the systems, how it's done, and not only do it well, but then to be able to repeat it time and time again without people having to oversight or overlook you. They know the proficiency's there. Kind of like being able to do something like the back of your hand. And a big portion, and I'm getting to a president here, again, starting at the bottom, is the ability to train your replacement. Each person that I've had moved up the ladder in the chain, most often was able to share, this person I developed from this role to this position, and now they were able to elevate. It's the ability to transfer their knowledge to the next generation. So if we're in a project engineer, to both learn the position, master it, and then be at a point where you can teach someone else to get them to a point of proficiency, 3.5 to 5 years. And maybe you get upgraded to a senior project engineer during that time, let's say, but really a full mastery of the project engineer role, from what I've seen in most presidents, about 5 years. Already kind of taken on project management responsibilities, maybe around year 3 or so onwards, but really understanding and grasping the role. So if we're looking at 5 years as a project engineer, the next logical step, and again, every company's got different titles, but let's go to a project manager. That's going to be the meat and the potatoes of where you're going to be out there as a warrior, out in the battlefield, totally understanding each fight from different types of projects with different general contractors, with different owners, different scopes, different weather, many different variants. During that time, it is so important to learn how to manage the client, to manage the project, to manage your men, because during that growth, people are going to judge you not on what you do, but how you respond to most of the negatives that happen. Inevitably, on every project, it seems there is something that can turn red, or there's an issue. Very rarely does everything just go according to plan. We're not judged on, we are judged on the bottom line, but how we handled the adversity. So those soft skills in that project management years, that is what, Seth, I want to hit on, and we can talk about this for a long time. It's the soft skills that will take someone from a project management, senior project manager, into a high level of operations, and then be considered for a C-suite opportunity. It's not always getting 10% on a project. Sometimes it's losing a few percentage points on the profit, but it's developing people along the way who are in the trenches with you and bringing them along as well. Because, the grand scheme of things, if we lose $200,000 on what we thought was going to be profit, but there are 3 people who expedited their growth as project engineers who are now ready to be PMs, who've gone through that fire with you, and your trust is there with them. What's the value of trust and accountability and dependability over 10 years versus one project and a few profit points? So getting back to that progression, we're looking at project engineers, project managers, soft skills, ability to raise more project engineers into those PM roles and backfill yourself, learning how to communicate where the owners and the GCs are asking for you to be the PM on their hardest and their biggest projects, and working with you, getting through those hard moments. Those soft skills will push people forward. Now, in that project management stint, I've seen people short-term, 5 years, get promoted to a senior PM role. Again, every company is different, but meat and potatoes, you're looking at 5. Oftentimes, it'll take 10 years, though. The key factor in those 5-year guys over a 10-year in the project management scope into getting to that next level is how you deal with adversity. I cannot stress that enough. Things will always go wrong on problems. There are things outside of our control. How do you deal with your team? How do you deal with your clients? How do you deal with ownership and the ability to communicate tough messages in a way that will invoke a response that's positive. That's the singular thing that really propels people into that senior project management role. You're looking at year 10 to year 15 in your career. And then from there, it's opportunity, and the biggest word, timing, before actually getting into the C-suites. Because in that C-suite area, year 15, year 20 into your career, there's one president per company sometimes. They're just not always out there. So timing's a big portion of that. And with those soft skills that you're developing, the reference checks that we as recruiters, as the presidents of companies all throughout the nation, we all, especially cast in place concrete stuff, it is a small market. Lots of work going on, but, us at Baker, your Lithgos, your Secos, Largo, Orion, I'm just listing the top people on ENR that are out there doing these big projects. We all know each other. We've all talked to each other, especially like myself, who's been in the industry, and a few others who've been around 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years. We're very aware of each other's names and can communicate, hey, we saw this person work with you 3 years ago. They've made 2 moves since then. Was there an issue you saw, or is it a circumstance? There's a communication, and those things, what you do behind the scenes, will catch up to you when you're being regarded for a C-suite position.
Yeah, it's a small, small world.
Small world.
Yeah, I mean, construction itself is a small world, but yet when you get it, you know, you niche it down to just concrete construction, there's not a whole lot of us out there. And I think that's just, again, a tangent. But when we're talking to folks that are coming out of college or they're in college and they've been interning on or with GCs and they've done some, especially specialist trade internships as well, like concrete construction. That's what I've told people when they want to listen to me, is why you pick concrete construction is because we're a very small pool compared to the overall construction industry. So I think, like you were saying, if you're one of those top folks, top 1% that are able to take that career trajectory, that's a big word for me, trajectory, and you're shortening down those times that you shared with us, if it's, from field engineer to PM, if that 5-year period, you're able to shrink that down to 2 years. Well, and you do that in concrete construction, I mean, you're gonna stand out because that pool is much smaller than it is in the general contracting world. There's a lot more of those folks versus a concrete contractor. So,
couldn't agree with you more. Could not agree with you more. So on that growth too, Seth, if you don't mind me to go in, like kind of continue with that train of thought, when we're talking about those positions and growing into that role, sometimes it's provided at a singular place where you can be a one company man for 20 years and work your way in. There's other times where I call it, term that I learned at Kimmel, strategic career opportunities. Like, when is the right time to really leverage where you're at to make a move? Big thing that I always hit on as a third-party recruiter before coming over to Baker was, have you talked to your current company about this? Because if you're a top-level person and you're looking to move your career moving forward, I think most of our bosses would appreciate that you want more for your career and would love to be put in a position to do that. Often, I'd probably say about 60% of the time when I was recruiting and I asked, hey, have you talked to your boss about creating a long-term plan for you? The answer was no. And a lot of those times, those bosses did put positions in place for them to do that. As a recruiter, you'd think that my job is to always bring people onto the team or to the client that I'm working with. But often, and what I try to put my heart into this is helping individuals to get to where they want to be. If it happens to align with where I'm at, that's awesome. But if it's not, hey, at least can I help you move your career forward? Have you talked to your boss that you're a project manager? Let's say you've been doing it 7 years. Last 2 projects, under budget, on time, like you're doing great. Have you talked about being a senior project manager in leadership? Has he told you the reasons why he hasn't done that? And oftentimes it's just a lack of communication, creating a better picture and a plan, and people get to where they want to be, just creating the plan in and of itself. So that's where I wanted to share too. If the companies that you're working with or that you're currently at isn't creating a plan for you and can't show you the steps in order to get to where you want to be, that's a flag. Color it what you want it to be. But if they're not showing you their long-term plan, are you a stopgap? Are you just another number on the spreadsheet? Like, what is the value that you bring to the company? What is your long-term value? I'll speak to us here at Baker real quickly. For all of our people, we've invested time and money to learn and be able to track someone from a field project engineer, which is our entry-level role, to a project engineer, senior project engineer, all the way through the steps to becoming a VP, and the core competencies, characteristics, and skills needed, along with the soft skills to show them what the next step is. And also, again, tuning our own horn here, our team does a great job of helping communicate where our individuals are at so they know what's next to be, what's the next step and what they need to get there. And that's a big thing for our listeners today. If they're at a company that's not showing them the pathway to where they want to be, maybe you want to talk to somebody or talk to others about getting in with a company long-term that can develop those skills and that value. Because skills and value isn't dollar signs on a spreadsheet and money coming in. Again, we'll stress the importance of that. But when we're looking at true executive level people, it is the soft skills of how do you communicate? Who have you developed? What does the marketplace say about you when we call your past firms? Would they take you back tomorrow if they had the shot? Or would they say, stay away from that person? And so during those strategic moves, if you're going to leave your current company, make sure that you're learning a skill, a value. You're not just chasing a dollar bill. If you're moving closer to home, getting a little bit more money, I don't hold it against you, but a strategic career move is moving into a position to learn a value that increases your value to both the company that you work for and the workforce as a whole. So if that makes sense, because I know I went on a little bit of tangent right there, but make sure that the career step, the true strategic career moves put you in a position to learn a skill that your current company is not showing you the path that they're going to teach to you.
Yeah, no, I think that what I really liked out of what you said was when people reach out to you about a job with Baker, you ask them to, have you had this conversation with your current employer? I think that's critical because maybe you think it's all coming from, your supervisor or whoever you work for that's what's holding you back. But going back to them and saying, hey, I need some feedback. Why am I not being pushed, up through the company? And maybe they'll point out some spots that you need to work on before you reach out to another company, because they're gonna find those weak spots eventually. You might get through, you might get hired, but eventually those weak spots will come out, and you don't want to make a move without knowing what those are.
Agreed. And as a recruiter, one of the things I've seen people do since COVID was chase opportunities for dollars and for multiple other reasons. But that skill that you had mentioned, that if they had gone to their leadership and said, hey, what's holding me back? Maybe this is a very simple skill that they could have corrected and their value would have increased. But they didn't learn that. So they go to different companies, and that deficiency or lack of skill there, better to say, comes out. It becomes friction with the new company, where at the previous company, you had built up time equity with them and they appreciated that and they would have given you time to work on it. But the new firm, the expectation is higher and their tolerance is lower. So that's where, again, I stress like, hey, if you're going to make a move, make sure it's for the right reasons. Have you given the place that you're leaving ample opportunity for them to give you the best shot to continue your career? $5,000, $10,000 more a year, especially with the way taxes are now, that's not worth chasing if your company's willing to invest time into you, because your long-term value as a project manager, superintendent, is your ability to be forged in the fire. And if someone's going to give you longer time to be in there without pulling the reins and chucking you to the side, that means more. Like again, those presidents, those high-level guys, they'd stay at places longer than other people. Some were, 7 to 12 years, but it's because they were in the fire and they were gaining a certain sharpness to them that when it came time to be an executive or have that conversation, they could talk about the specific experiences where they overcame adversity rather than just being the ones who hop ship and the adversity and the issue that caused it in the first place was brought out again. And then you're looking at someone who's just taking 2-year jumps in their career, not showing the stability, but it's really them running from their deficiency. Another tangent. So Thanks for letting me share that.
Yeah, no, that's real insightful. It's interesting to hear from your side of things versus, I've never done what you've done. I've been in operations and now I'm in business development. So I've never, I guess we're all asked to help you, assist you, be recruiters, to attract talent. But your insight on that you're sharing is, I'm sure it's going to be helpful. What other things have you seen that are maybe kept people back from getting to that C-suite level?
Accountability and dependability. That's the biggest thing. If the man in the mirror, if we cannot look in the mirror and accept what others are sharing with us as our deficiencies, if it's coming from above, and be willing to address it. I mean, there are certain things as individuals that we may think we are excellent on, but others think it's a major weakness. I can give a personal example. For many years, I've been able to tailor this. My energy. I was a high energy guy in my 20s where people loved that, but an overwhelming amount of it could be off-putting. I'm trying to tailor it back here for you.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I know, right?
Wouldn't think of that, Patrick.
So, sometimes it's just being able to look in the mirror, and sometimes it's not even a weakness or a deficiency that they're asking us to do something. Maybe there's a skill that we haven't unearthed yet about ourselves, that by doing something that we're asked to do that we haven't typically done, we're going to learn something because there's a bigger picture to what we're going to be able to step into. So again, a lot of these presidents, we're talking about just the project management vein, have talked about times where they had to step in to be a superintendent on a project, or they had an estimator quit right before a big bid and had to go in there and pull an all-nighter. Being in the field and being diverse in your skills and being willing to do whatever it takes. That's a really big part. Whatever it takes. If you're going to be the point man and you're going to be the executive of the whole group, that means if the whole ship goes down, you're going down with it, and you're the one who's going to try to save it till the last sail goes underwater. That's what a true leader is. Someone that we can look up to who's accountable to their actions and dependable when they say, I'm going to do it, good as gold. Accountability, dependability, two great qualities that time and time again you see in a president and high-level operations guys, C-suite candidates. And you can only do that, speaking on the previous point, by spending time in a place and investing, both letting them invest into you as an individual, showing that you've mastered what they shared with that, and then creating a pathway and a legacy of other people who you've now invested that skill into. Now, not everyone's going to stay at a certain company, but if your legacy is, Seth came in and he grew an amazing business development unit, and there's like 5 people that he grew, and, 2 went to other companies who are now VPs, but our 3 guys here, those stories mean more in the C-suites than he just ran a great project. That development that we got back to at the beginning part, to backfilling yourself if you're going to continue moving forward, the soft skills.
Yeah. You hit on a point, and we didn't really say we were going to talk about it, but those folks that got into that, the president role or C-suite level role, you mentioned the PM path. If there are folks that are early in their career and they're trying to decide if they're going to go that PM path or that superintendent path, have you seen someone go the superintendent path and get to that level? Because I think a lot of people think that they have to go to that PM path to get to that level, because they're like, hey, that PM's more associated with the office and the superintendent's in the field, and they forget about the guy in the field, which we don't. Those guys they're critical. They're the ones that do the work. So, so can you talk a little bit about that?
Project superintendent, estimator. As I have seen people from all 3, and project managers as well, all 3 of those channels come president. Master the work that you do. So whether you're going to be out in the field, in the office, or estimating, be the best. Be the best you can be. We talk about the ability to become a president. It is with the baseline. Let me go ahead and say this. Go out there and be great at what you do. That doesn't mean you have to be number 1 of all times, but be accountable and dependable, that if we're putting you on a project, we know what to expect. Variants happen, but we know how we're going to handle the bad ones, and we'll cheer you on for the good ones. So if we're coming up through those 2 channels, it's still the same point, Seth. And I love saying this. It's your ability to develop. If you're an estimator, you become a senior estimator, and you develop 2 or 3 estimators below you who are now backfilling the job that you're doing. And then you become a chief estimator, and then you raise 2 or 3 of those guys as well to be your senior estimators. And then they're leading their estimators. You're creating this pyramid where you're moving up because you're able to train people to come in below you. You can take on more work because you can pass it along at a higher level. So same with being a superintendent. Train your area supers or your assistant supers. If you're a senior super, develop the superintendents that you have. You're a general super, make sure all your seniors are online. And if there's any positions like director of field operations, construction manager, whatever the title may be above a general super, understand how to manage the supers, their next layer, and then teach them to manage the other layers. Because that a presidential executive role is the ability to manage multiple layers of the organization and your influence, where you're accountable and dependable, and the people that who work with you are accountable and dependable. So that's the stream that you find all the way down from the top to the bottom of accountability.
Yeah.
So project management, superintendent, both project manager is the easiest to talk about. You see it the most often. Even at Baker, there are guys who were general superintendents of ours who are now in operations. We both know one of those. I made a placement in Florida many years ago. He was a general superintendent. Now he's the director of a group himself. It is at the estimator as well. I can think of off the top of my head. There absolutely there's other channels to be able to get into those C-suites, but it's the ability to influence others, to develop others, and be an influence outside of really just your own realm. Because if you're going to be an estimator, make sure the numbers are great and the PMs love working with you because the numbers are aligning all the time. If you're going to go more through the superintendent path, man, be the one that all those top project managers request to be on your projects. Like be the person that people want to work with so that way they can bring along their people so you can influence them. Because if you're the only one making influence and there's no one else, you're going to be drained over time. But in a good structured organization, you're going to have people influencing from the PM path, from the superintendent path, from the estimating path, and they're going to overlap. And you want to partner up with people who you have two great influencers. Well, the guys who are in the field, who are under the superintendent with the great PMs on the path, and they're rubbing shoulders with them, eating lunch and asking questions, there's going to be an overlap. You're going to learn a little bit more, and you're going to develop, and then you have more connections in the industry who remember you, request you, and then you blow great projects out of the water because there's this network from different streams about development from the top to the bottom. I could go on for this for days, so I'll pause it right there.
No, that's great. I think the gist of it all. I'm a simple guy, Patrick. You're so good at presenting this, but to me, it comes down to just grow people. So whatever position you're in, you just need to take the time to help people grow in their position, and so that not just necessarily replacing you, but just helping everyone grow. And because I think you mentioned, getting feedback from the folks that are above you, whoever your supervisor is. I think just as important as getting feedback from the folks that work for you. Like no one wants to work for a guy that's only out for himself. I know that I've been with Baker for 6 years now. I could tell you pretty quick if someone's going to last here or not. And those are the folks that I know aren't going to last very long. Is I sit in meetings with them and I hear me. And I'm like, this guy or gal is not going to last here because that's not how we see things at the company. So you need, I think what you're getting at is if you're a person that can grow other people, you will excel and get to that spot pretty quick.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I don't think we would do this topic much justice if we don't talk about. Maybe we need to talk about what it's like to be in that position, so people understand what you want it, you're asking for it, but do you know what you're asking for? Can we talk a little bit about what that means?
In the position of being in a C-suite position, you mean?
Yeah. What's that like? Since you talk to these guys,
it is across the board, Seth. This is great question. If you have the opportunity to interview for a C-suite position, do your vetting. I've heard great stories of people going into operations fully supported, staff, manpower. You have the opportunity to be a leader of men. I've also heard of positions that are C-suite where you are the fire department. And sometimes the Homeland Security, like it is bringing the National Guard, where you're just constantly putting out fires, but your title and the finances are so grand, the ability to actually do the role of managing and growing a unit isn't even presented to you. I was actually speaking with someone about this very, very recently on behalf of Baker, where the candidate was telling me that the position that they were put into was essentially just getting beaten up, where they were dumped with problems. They had a C-suite title, but they had no opportunity to even develop bonds with the project management, the superintendent teams, the estimating teams, because it was just problem solving from day one. Lasted there a few years, like put in his good time, fought the good fight, but ultimately it's like, I need to step back to take a next step forward in my career, because I'm not even able to go and tell somebody what a vice president does, because the position that I'm in isn't what a vice president is allowed to do. And then, having been with Baker and worked off and on, like on the outside for 6 years with Baker, now one on the inside, brought in a few guys on our operations teams, where when you're looking at that individual, staff supported, have they been thrown curveballs and big issues along the way? Absolutely. Tackled them with grace. But we put them in a position where we're able to give them what they needed in order to grow. And now they're able to interview, hire, and develop a unit where we can actually develop a long-term plan around them, rather than just asking them to put out flyers and and hold a title so that way we look better on paper, but actually to develop that business unit out. So if we're going to look at that C-suite position, back to your original question, what does that look like? Make sure you do a good job vetting. What it really should entail is that if there's any issues in the entire organization that can't be solved by a senior project manager or senior superintendent, that you're ready to tap in. Make sure that you can be the person, again, accountability and dependability, that when the fire gets really, really hot, you've got the flame retardant suit to be able to walk in and put them on everybody else and kind of mitigate the heat while we go and tackle the issue. The top guys that I know too, I'll just say this, they are 60 hours a week plus minimum available to their top guys and to their teams and to their units. A few of the guys that I work with here at Baker, I mean, I've texted them 8:30, 9 o'clock at night Central Time. I'm getting texts back before the morning from them. So that accountability and dependability. And then being structured and organized. If people are going to look up to you and follow you, if you don't have your structure together, what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and if you were to be gone for an indefinite amount of time for some sort of life reason, people can walk in, inherit, understand, and then be able to execute the outline and the task that you have. I think that reflects a little bit about your leadership, because you want to be able to lead any organization that you're leading in good hands. If life were to happen to you, you needed to exit stage left for a time. So organization, accountability, dependability, and then back to that original point we talked in the very beginning, the ability to grow and develop talent under you. Because if you're going to be a president for a long time and you're doing your job at the highest level, in theory, you probably should develop 2 or 3 other people over 15 years who are president worthy. Can you keep them all? That's a structural and organizational thing, but the ability to keep producing those levels, the people to come under you, where when it is your time, maybe you've lost 3, but you developed the 4th, because that's a skill that you've developed and that's a skill that you've transferred to somebody else. Again, long-winded. So accountability, dependability, structured and organized, ability for someone to come and backfill yourself quickly, and then the ability to always have the right people developed and nurtured under you. And that'll keep you in a position for a long time, because while I've placed a few people, hey, have they all worked out over 7 to 10 years? Not exactly. So then you look at, what do those guys not have? Again, sometimes it's a firestorm, they can't help it. But the people who oversold themselves to me, what were they sharing with us that, and they give the common thread, the inability to grow others. They were in it for the numbers. They were in it to show how great they could be. But hey, maybe you're a great project manager. You can run a project better than anybody else. But if your project engineer hates you and the supers don't want to work with you anymore, and then now you're tasked to lead a whole business unit, time will kind of show you true colors.
Yeah. I think that's a great spot to end today's podcast. That was very insightful. I appreciate it, Patrick. If folks want to reach out to you and learn more about you and what you do for Baker, how should we reach out to you?
Appreciate you asking. Easiest way, I am on LinkedIn all the time. Patrick Narron, Talent Acquisition Specialist on LinkedIn. Feel free to shoot me connections. We'd be happy to connect. Shoot me a message. I get back to everybody. I do get a lot, so I'll get back to you in time. But if you're interested in Baker opportunities or something that I'll mention, just want to have a conversation about your career, what it looks like in your current position. If I can help you out in any way too, more than just being a Baker recruiter, here as an asset or a resource for anybody's careers.
All right. Well, Patrick, thanks for coming on the show today. And folks, until next time, let's keep it concrete.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Concrete Logic Podcast. If you got value from the show, here's how you can provide value back to support the show. Visit concretelogicpodcast.com and click the donate button to send value back. All dollar amounts are truly appreciated. And now, to close out the show, here's Mike Dunton.
Couple hours before the sun comes up. Open up the side, put some diesel in the lights, and wait till the trucks roll up. And this ain't how most folks live their lives, dripping in sweat, working overtime. But while they're tying their ties for their 9 to 5s, we're out here changing these skylines. written in our blood with wood, iron, and mud. From the swamps to the city, from the Lone Star heat to the woods of the Georgia pine. Good old boys and girls who ain't afraid of getting dirty